Does it matter what you call yourself? In this industry, there are a lot of ways to describe yourself. But when it comes to getting hired for a job, does what you call yourself even matter at all? This is something I've been thinking about for a couple of years now. It's something that's been on my mind. It's something that I keep kind of changing and tweaking, but it's not necessarily something that I've finalised an idea on. But I have learned a few things when it comes to this. So if you're kind of new, maybe this is worth thinking about. Videographer, DP, cinematographer, filmmaker, these are all kind of words that describe a similar thing. And if the only work you're doing is moving images, so no photography, strictly no stills, then these terms are generally the ones that you'll apply to yourself or that others may apply to you. I really like the way that David Moorfield summed up his thoughts on the matter. He reckons because he's just purely documenting things that are going on and he's using video to do that, he's also not trying to elevate himself beyond what he actually is. He calls himself a videographer. And I quite like that. I think the fact that the term videographer has gotten a bad rap is down to YouTube, and it's down to people on this platform saying that filmmaker, cinematographer, they're the ones to call yourself, and even more DP, because it just sounds, I don't know, it sounds loftier. I think that when you call yourself a cinematographer, if that's not really your job, if you're just making videos on YouTube, if you're just making short films for yourself that end up getting published on YouTube, I don't think that's the right term, and I think it makes you sound like you're trying to be something more than you are, sorry. Cinematographer doesn't really tell me anything about what you can do. It doesn't tell me what your skill set is. Personally, I don't think it does. It's one of them that's like, it's bandied about so much on YouTube that it loses any meaning, if it even had much to start with. I guess you could look at it in terms of like photographer, videographer, cinematographer, like you're creating cinema. But what are you, what? Are you creating cinema? DP, on the other hand, is like too specific. It's the name of a job. It's like if you try and tell your friends about how to manage their taxes at the end of the year and you call yourself an accountant, it's not what you are. A DP is a director of photography. It's the person on a film set, it's the person on the crew who is responsible for how what is in frame looks. There's probably a better definition of it, but where a director will put into the scene what is necessary, and even that's kind of wrong, the DP will light that and make what the director has put. I'm going to say the best it can, but that's not always the case. Sometimes the role of a DP is to make something look bad because that is what is required of them. It's creating the look that's been ascribed by other parts of the team, basically. DP feels so specific that if you call yourself a DP and you're just doing videos like this, you kind of missed it. You kind of did the wrong thing, I think. I don't know. Again, this is all my opinion. This is all stuff that I've come into contact with over the last 9 years of video and God knows how much longer of photography. 11, 12 years? 12 years of photography, wow. So DP exists in the larger ecosystem of the creation of videos, films, cinema, whatever you want to call it, the filmmaking world. Calling yourself a DP kind of excludes you from a lot of the other jobs that a videographer does. A videographer handles a lot more than just making the scene look as it's meant to, as it's designed to. I would say that I work as a DP relatively often, but I wouldn't put that as my title because more often than that, I'm doing the whole thing. I am a videographer. I am maybe doing the sound. In fact, more often I am doing the sound. Maybe I'm never a DP, but often, yeah, I'm doing the sound. I do work as a DP relatively often, but not often enough for that to be my only title. More often than that, I am doing many more jobs in that production. When I hire myself out as a DP, I expect someone to be doing the production. I expect someone to be doing the directing. I expect there to be someone telling me what's going to be filmed, who's going to be in this, who we should be interviewing. If it's basically where the camera should be pointed, I'll make the scene look as best as I can, but someone else will be telling me what the scene is. For example, recently worked on a couple of videos with a company called Blossom. Christian, who is the founder of Blossom, he's the one directing, telling me who we're going to interview, who we should be interviewing. Yes, because these are small productions, I'm doing the audio. I'm also going and finding people to interview if maybe he's got some other stuff to do and he says, we need to get like 4 interviews from people who've been at this event. He's going to go off and get some people, I'll go off and get some others. But predominantly, the thing that I'm charging for is my making that scene look good, making those interviews look as best I can. But he's doing the interview, he's talking to them, he's trying to get the best out of them. That's not on me. And yeah, I'll be wrangling the data at the end of it. There will be a lot more. I'll be editing it, but then I'm charging that as me being an editor for these DP jobs side of things. When I'm acting as a director and producer, as well as a DP and everything else, like this job for Viaduct, an NHS trust in Stockport, I was a producer, director, DP, as well as 100 other things. I was doing the edit, I was liaising with the client directly. All this stuff, I would say, makes me a videographer. And then there's Filmaker. Filmaker is too vague. To me, it says you are doing the whole process. So someone who makes films on YouTube, coming up with the idea, doing all of the producing, all of the videography, all of the jobs that kind of come with it, and editing it and putting it out into the world. If you hit all of those spots, or at least the vast majority of them, then I would say maybe you're a filmmaker. I think this applies often more to like documentary filmmaker, because maybe you're even, not a highest level, but a higher level where you're making a 10-minute short that you're going to try and sell to a big newspaper or some, one of those online media corporations. If you're producing something, you're coming up with the idea, you're deciding what it is that you're going to be filming, then I think filmmaker maybe does apply. I have in the past referred to myself as a documentary filmmaker only in terms of projects where I am doing that. Like this one I did of Edith from Live the Buzz.
Hiya, my name is Edith and I founded Live the Buzz. Live the Buzz was really based in Manchester for like 3 years, well 2 years really.
It's not actually finished yet, but I reached out to her, I said, can we make a documentary about you? I filmed it, I did all the audio, I did everything, and the edit. And then you've got like the complete other side of this. You've got the side where you're a photographer and you're making moving images sometimes, you're creating video around that photography. And I do this quite a lot. This is how I got into video. And I think this is the case for a lot of photographers who are being a bit more progressive now. They know that they've got to add video in, but they're still a photographer. They're not a videographer because they're not making films. They're not making even what you would call videos in a. This is a tough one to explain because yes, technically they are making videos, but they're just moving versions of the photographs that they would usually be taking. There may be some cutting together, there may be some even like Daniel Schiffer style editing, but I still think that is in the realm of a photographer. A good example of this in my work is my work with Paper Republic. I do a lot of product photography for them and lifestyle photography. Occasionally, we'll do 2 different types of video. One is a product explainer video. No sound, but the product is being shown. It has to have a sort of start to finish almost, but it is shot in exactly the same way as the product photography. And then we do the lifestyle stuff, and the lifestyle stuff, the videos that go with that, they're just moving versions of the stills that we do for lifestyle. And yes, what is output is a video, but it could quite easily be a GIF. I think if you can turn your film in its entirety into a GIF, then it probably can be classed as photography. In fact, there's a third example of a kind of video that I do with Paper Republic, actually kind of a fourth as well. So in the past we've done interviews, so sit-down interviews, talking heads with people who use their product.
It's too funny.
My name is Christian. I'm the general manager here in the 25 Hours in Vienna, and I'm working since 2 years for this company. We have each hotel with a different story.
That now is into the videography world. Then we've also created an ad campaign which had a narrative piece of video which showed the product from start to finish being made, delivered, and used by the end user. That was far more of a full ad where I was doing videography. I would also point to photographers, for example, Scott Chithinio, who is a photographer. He is quite clearly a photographer, represented by an agent as a photographer. But if you look at the work he does, there's some moving image in there. It is very much in the exact same style as his photographs. Like I was saying about my work, I wouldn't class that as being a videographer. If you want to work in the film industry, if you want to work in TV, I wouldn't go around calling yourself a photographer, maybe a DP, director of photography. That would be a better thing to call yourself. I don't think you're going to get taken seriously as someone who's trying to work in that industry by calling yourself a photographer. That's just me though. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I doubt it. But it's a safe bet in the advertising world where you're working with stills, you're working with video, call yourself a photographer, people will understand what you mean. You say, I'm a photographer, yeah, we can do some video on that, we can do some moving image. It's fine, I think. So where does that leave you? I think potentially, possibly, like me. Sometimes it suits to say DP, sometimes it suits to say videographer, and sometimes it suits to say photographer. It depends on the client. After all, this is all about communicating what it is you do to someone who's going to pay you, or to someone you want to impress. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it is someone you want to impress, and then pick the title that you think sounds the most impressive. But if it's to get a specific job, if it's to find specific work, call yourself the thing that you see other people calling themselves. If it is purely DP work, then do call yourself a DP, even if you spend 70% of the rest of your time only doing photography. If you want to work in the advertising world, it depends which path you want to take. If you want to direct commercials that go on TV, even big commercials that go online, then maybe it is DP, maybe it is director. You might be a director that films as well. And it's so muddy. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if you change what you call yourself all the time, as long as it makes sense when you're trying to get that job. If you have a decent understanding, if you go and educate yourself on what it is that those jobs are, what it is that people call themselves in those industries, then you've got a better chance at communicating that. And like I say, it's all about communicating what it is you can do for someone. Right, I think that's it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Laters.